It's a beautiful, beautiful day here in Southern California. Our base station, our flagship station. So honored to be on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. I'm with my partner, Charlene Gill. The show, actually, I'm her partner. The show is called At Home With Charlene. And you tell us by your emails, your texts, you love what we do every week because, Charlene, you get great guests.
I try really hard, but I appreciate the great guests that accept the invitation that I give over to them and come on the show as well.
Today may be one of the best guests we ever had. I don't want to give it away. I want to tease the audience a little bit. If you grew up in Santa Clarita, you'll know his name. If you love this community, you probably have run across him in various things. But before we start every show with your interest rate. Last week I said don't wait, and you're having an incredible week.
Yeah, we're having a great week.
So whatever we said last week is working because you brought in so many deals this week. So thank you, listeners. Rates are going up, but what are they this week?
Yeah, we're still right about the mid-4s, high 4s on most programs, but don't just know that those are probably going to continue to increase for the rest of the year.
I want to do like a show special, like a Charlene Gill show special where, we drop it an eighth of a point, something like that. Let's work on a show special.
Oh, okay. We'll think of something.
This is quite a lady. There aren't very many. Do you ever think about that you're in a male-dominated industry and you've done so well? I mean, how many ladies are there in the mortgage business? 3, 2?
Yeah, there isn't a lot of women in this industry. You have to be very tough-skinned, and you have to have a good amount of drive to be in this industry. But
you got to have dog in you. Can you bark?
Oh yeah, you got to have
no.
Some
You got to have
tough
dog.
Skin.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
And you've won so many awards, Charlene. I mean, you have won service awards, production awards. I mean, 21 years in the business. God bless you. You've done a great job. Today. We're going to introduce our guests in a minute, but anything else working for you? Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I really would like to introduce our guest because I think he has so much information to share, and we definitely don't want to waste any time on that. So I have Rick Patterson with Owen Patterson and Owen here, and it's an honor to have him on the show. He's such a sweet man. When I first met him, and we went to lunch and all sat down together, and I said, would you mind coming on my show and just sharing with us all of your experiences and everything you know about Santa Clarita, and he's such an asset, and there's so many things that a lot of people probably don't know about him that we'll be touching on. So I would definitely like to thank him and introduce Rick Patterson.
Well, thank you. What a great introduction. I thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's a great community to share information about. We would never run out of old subjects or new subjects. And so thank you for inviting me.
You're an Esquire, so the firm Owen Patterson and Owen, you're not repairing cars, you're repairing lives.
We are, yeah. Owen Patterson and Owen. My partners Greg Owen and Susie Owen. We formed this alliance as our partnership back in 1999. Opened the practice of this firm in 77 over in the old Plaza Posada. It's still there. And some good friends that were neighbors there when we opened up in an office just about the size of this room. It was a big day for us, and we moved around. Eventually ended up over in the New Hall Land building when they were newly built on Valencia Boulevard. They needed some tenants to fill the building at that time. We spent a couple of great years there. And then in 1987, built our building across the street right next to the Auto Club, and we've been there since 1987.
Yeah, and we have the privilege of sharing some of that building space with you.
Yeah, it's a good location. People like to come to that part of town because they can figure out they can go over to the mall or the restaurants, and it's a fun place to visit. So a lot of activity in the community over there and all over this community, commercially and residentially.
And there's a couple things that I found very interesting that Rick's been a part of, and I really just wanted to mention a few of them because under his leadership, the Santa Clarita Valley Facilities Foundation made a donation of over $1 million to the William S. Hart School District, and that is great, because a lot of us have kids that are in the Hart School District, and that's a huge donation that can help all of our kids in the surrounding schools. That's
How about a little bit of applause for that?
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Talking about kids, I want to dedicate today's show to Alex Urbina. Charlene, do you know Alex?
He has a show.
He has
here
a show.
too, right?
He has a show on Fridays at noon. He wrote a book, The Inspirational Parent. But this guy changes lives. He's writing his new book, How to Raise a Teenager.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
That's a tough one.
The book is going to go for $1,000 a book, but that's okay. If you've got a teenager, you could wind up spending $100,000
Yeah.
on fixing the problems, or going to Owen
Absolutely.
Patterson and Owen. But
Well, a few other top things I wanted to bring about Rick too was I think just top 51 influential people in Santa Clarita, founded Valencia National Bank. He's a panel attorney for the California Association of Realtors. He's a part of the Santa Clarita Facilities Foundation, as we mentioned, where that made that large donation. He's assisted in the Santa Clarita Committee on Aging. And one thing that you shared with us on lunch that I'd like to bring up too was the assisted livings that you helped to create. And that was specifically so that your parents had a great place to be at, that you knew was going to be, what did you call it, like an oasis?
Oh yeah, if anyone's ever visited Summerhill Villa, which is what it was named when we built it and operated it, there on Lyons Avenue as you go up to the freeway, you will understand when we call it or refer to it as assisted living facility, like a cruise ship on land. And it's just a beautiful facility, and it filled up immediately. It was an interesting real estate study because in the beginning, before any bank would loan any money on an assisted living facility out here, the lenders required that a market study be done to determine and confirm that there was a demand for that property, for that kind of a facility. And sometimes you go on your instincts and your gut feeling as to what the need is. And after a $10,000 or $15,000 cost in the study, the report came back and said there's not enough people over 70 that would justify that kind of a facility. So that's when we began to have to work a little bit harder to finance it. And a long story short, we determined that after we got opened, that about 25 to 30% of all the people that came to that facility, it has 130 rooms, 25 to 30% of them moved from out of the area, which
Just to be a part of it.
Yeah, the multiplier effect is that the executives who would like to live in Valencia, it's difficult for them to move if their parents are in an assisted living facility in LA or Orange County. But once it became like a magnet to some of the industry, because people could come out here because their parents could live here and they could move their businesses here. So the numbers worked very well, and it was a great part for our family, and for my partner's parents were living there also. And so we enjoyed that very much.
And what a great philosophy to make it a cruise ship type atmosphere. So, they're not traveling, and many of them probably traveled for many years, and many of them probably were very active in doing those things. So having a facility where it gave that same type of atmosphere that they were probably used to or enjoyed being a part of. I mean,
now there's probably a waiting list to get in. Huh?
I would assume.
Yeah. What's the name of it again?
The name of it was Summerhill Villa at the time. It's now owned by a company. It's called Atria, A-T-R-I-A, and one of the former managers for us there has moved to another facility, Oakmont, and Margie Weiss, she was a great part of that success there, and now she continues to do a great job other places.
I think that's amazing, because I know when my grandmother was older, and we were trying to figure out how to manage caring for her, and it's very expensive to put a loved one in a facility and to do things like that. But if you make it a fun facility and you make it a place where executives can live and have their parents with them, the concept itself, I just remember that from our lunch, and I thought that was something we should bring up.
One of the things that we learned early on is that no matter what your stage of life is or your abilities, you move into a facility like that and everyone can find someone else that they can help. So the socializing is powerful as far as keeping us healthy and involved and engaged, but they find others that can benefit from something they can do for each other. And so it creates a real bond in that whole atmosphere, which also, the beat goes on in the commitment to the senior community. And that was 2001 when I actually became a member of the board of directors of the Santa Clarita Committee on Aging, which is the senior center. And it's been a few years now as we have moved to a big arena in the community, and that is a new facility. And under the current presidency of Peggy Rasmussen and a dynamic board of directors, we have now announced and proceeding to break ground on the new facility that is going to be located on acreage at the intersection of Golden Valley and Newhall Ranch Road. And it's beautiful because it's an elevated site. It's going to be a showpiece, 30,000 square feet with everything that you could ever want in a senior center. And the companion piece, which is next door, is designated to be the future YMCA. So hopefully some real intergenerational interactions and strengthening of both communities. The youth learning from the seniors, and the seniors benefiting from the energy of the youth. So it's good things are going on in that part of the real estate business.
I mean, alongside being the best personal injury attorney in Santa Clarita, you're very, very committed to the community and its growth and helping and helping lead the new generation into what we should be doing and good deeds that we should be doing along with success.
Well, there are a lot of opportunities out there to serve. Everybody can find that just by looking and asking. And one of the good things about the city of Santa Clarita, in addition to the many other services they provide, they actually have someone that is committed to and hired to manage volunteer services. And so if anybody ever thinks they're not able to easily find places where they can volunteer, the city has that service available. Of course, the senior center takes a lot of volunteers. We have over 300 volunteers that are serving there on a regular basis. You can imagine the value to a budget when you have 300 volunteers.
And anyone can volunteer?
Anyone can volunteer. One of the things that's most dynamic is that we serve about 130,000 meals per year, mm-hmm. and half of those are delivered to people's homes, and the other half are congregate meals there in the center itself. And we are bursting at the seams. It's going to be a great addition. The great thing about the meals delivered to homes is that sometimes the food is important. The food's always good. We have a great kitchen staff and chef and people that prepare those meals to very high standards required by government codes. But sometimes the only contact they have with the outside world is when that person from the senior center comes in and hands them their tray of food and gives them that personal hug or touch that all of us so much need. And if you haven't had the opportunity to volunteer to do that, if you ever want to do something that will inspire you to do more, go on some of those rides and go visit these people. It's terrific.
You're listening to KHTS 1220 AM and 98.1 FM every Thursday at 2 o'clock at Home with Charlene. Maybe, just maybe, the number one mortgage lady, finance lady. How would you describe yourself, Charlene?
I would say loyal, dedicated, experienced, hardworking.
Would Madison agree to all that?
I think she would.
All right. Our wonderful guest, do you go by Rick or Richard?
I go by Rick.
Rick Patterson, Esquire, who's one of the partners in Owen Patterson and Owen. So this is like, you were here before the dinosaurs like I was.
Yeah.
Let's do this is your life, Rick Patterson. Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? How did you get into law? Why did you get into law?
That's good. That's a good question. Remember, I'm a lawyer, so I can talk a long time about that. But I'll tell you the first thing that motivated me to not be a rancher for the rest of my life was that my dad worked me so hard. And I think that was his motive, is to make sure I got a good education and was qualified to become a lawyer. he had a ranch in Arizona, northern Arizona, between Sedona and Clarkdale, which means cottonwood, right in the middle. And I was born in Prescott, and I grew up there, and I loved the life. It was great. It was healthy. And I went to BYU, met my wife, very fortunate that she agreed to marry me. Mm-hmm. And we've had 8 children, 5 daughters and 3 sons. And they've all been raised here in the Santa Clarita Valley. We moved here in 1973, and our son, the first son, was born in May of 73, and he was the first one born in our little neighborhood over there in the Fairways by Cal Arts. And
that was
the rest
my
has
first
been history.
neighborhood.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great. And, of course...
What's his name and what's he doing?
Well, Richard Patterson, he is our son. He goes by Rick. We call him Ricky. And he went to school at the BYU, went to law school at Harvard, and then practiced law on the West Coast and the East Coast with some major law firms. And after 5 children and enjoying the practice of law, he has a sister who had been a doctor. She's with Facey Medical. She's on the board of directors. I think she might be the only female on the board of directors, and I think she was the youngest person and woman elected to that board of directors. And she is here at Facey Medical, and he saw what she did, talked to her about it. He'd always had a desire to do something in that line after doing practicing law for several years. So he took his 5 children, went back to Chicago, and went to medical school. And now he and his family, with 7 children, are in El Paso, Texas, at the University of Texas at El Paso, doing his last year of residency in emergency medicine.
Wow.
And we're hoping that he'll find Valencia the place he wants to come back. And he's also a part of Valencia. He used to have to ride his bicycle when he was 12 years old across the onion fields from our house there by the Fairways over to the first. Our building was the second building built there on Valencia Boulevard next to the Auto Club. And he would come over and empty the trash and clean up and have to ride his bike home. And he used to complain about there's only one lane each way, and the trucks would come too close. He had to ride in the dirt. So, yeah, he's a tough kid. His brother is a lawyer that practices with us since he graduated from law school at the University of Utah. His name's Cody, and he practices personal injury law with us. And we have children that are here and spread around. My son Dylan, he is the area manager for Vivint Solar in both the Santa Clarita Valley and the Antelope Valley and up in the Victorville area, and enjoys that very much. So I could go on. I'm proud of every one of them. I'm proud of my wife. She still teaches at Old Orchard School, special needs children, resource specialist, and loves it, and they love her, and keeps us all busy.
What was you have 7 kids. What's your favorite?
8,
Did you have a favorite?
children. You left one out.
No, 7 kids.
8.
Yeah, 8.
8 kids.
My son has 7.
7.
Yeah.
So you had 8. Okay. How many grandkids?
Well, we have 24.
Wow. How is Christmas and holidays at your house? You got to draw names and do something
I have
like
10.
that.
Look the way I'm dressed.
Wow.
I have 10 grandkids.
Because you're giving them all of the money you have.
He knows.
Well,
he knows.
My wife feels the desire to make sure every one of those children has a great Christmas. I remind her that they do have parents, but
it doesn't take away from being the grandparent, right?
Now, do you have any Madisons in your 24?
No, we do have a Madeline, and she's the baby.
She's a baby. Now, can you quickly pronounce all 24 grandkids? You don't have to, but can you?
I can go through it. I might have to say 1 or 2 names for the same one till I get it right, but I do it.
Oh, cool. We're going to take a quick break. He is really one of our community leaders for a long, long time. He made Santa Clarita, with the help of his family, one of the great places to live. You probably know his name through various charitable events. Rick Patterson, Esquire. I love the Esquire. We'll be right back. The show every Thursday is called At Home with Charlene. Not kidding you, ladies and gentlemen. We get the best guests every Thursday. One more thing. If you're thinking about refining, there's only one lady to call. Her name is Charlene. Here's her number, 805-304-6000. 604. We'll be right back.
What can a Century 21 Troop Real Estate agent do for you? They show your home, solve your problems, and pet your dog. They provide the service of a butler and a savvy business tycoon. They explain the market, love a good barbecue, and would never drink milk from the carton, so invite one over. They do your homework, legwork, and sometimes yard work, so basically they provide the TLC to YOU. This is who they are, this is what they do. Call Century 21 Troop Real Estate at 661-705-0700. That's 661-705-0700. Century 21 Troop Real Estate, smarter, bolder, faster. Each office is independently owned and operated.
Healthcare can be difficult if you're underinsured or have Medi-Cal. Samuel Dixon Family Health Center can help. Services are available on a sliding fee schedule. The mission of the Samuel Dixon Family Health Center is to give the Santa Clarita Valley access to affordable, quality primary care. There are 3 locations to serve you: Canyon Country, Newhall, and Valverde. Go to sdfhc.org for more information and to find the location most convenient for you.
Morning, Liz.
And a good sunrise emoji, mountaintop summit emoji morning to you, Jim.
Did you just talk to me in emojis?
I did, because this egg white grill from Chick-fil-A is fist bump emoji good.
I don't know if you can talk in emojis.
Grilled chicken, egg whites, and cheese. It tastes like hearts just popped out of my eyes.
I assume that's also an emoji?
Yes, you get it.
Yeah, I understand nothing.
High five emoji, Jim.
The egg white grill from Chick-fil-A. Served until 10:30 a.m. Bring on the day.
Santa Clarita Valley has a long history of safe, reliable water service. SCV Water is dedicated to increasing efficiencies, protecting our vital resources, and improving their customers' experiences. That's you. Meet them at their new home on the web at yourscvwater.com. There, you can find the latest news, rebates, and much more. That's yourscvwater.com. They can't wait to serve you.
Name is Charlene Gill. The show every Thursday is At Home with Charlene. And, you know, it's a show that you can learn a little bit. We don't try to preach too much information. We try to have great guests like we do today. Our wonderful guest, Charlene. You got him, so congratulations. This is, you know, every community has very special people in it. Mm-hmm. And when you have a community like Santa Clarita where everybody's special. I grew up in Thousand Oaks, and when I moved here, to this day, we have the nicest people, the cleanest city, the safe city, and thank you, Rick Patterson.
And, you know, I always like when we have really inspiring people who work in our community, but also give back just as much as their success is. To me, that's important. That's what is a quality person to me. And that's who I keep trying to bring on our show is leaders, true leaders, who can, you know, model the rest of us.
And you do that week after week at Home with Charlene every Thursday, too. Let's get into law a little bit. You're an esquire, whatever that means.
But he has two
he's an attorney,
huge,
ladies and
he
gentlemen.
has 2 huge cases
Huge!
that I'd like to bring up because I think that's a huge success and achievement that I think he has. And I think the first one we want to talk about is the Porter Ranch case. You know, the leak that they had, and that was that. And it's still ongoing. But you're representing over 4,000 families and people.
That's right. This? Correct. Yeah, it's a fascinating case in the sense that, in essence, it's the flip side of the Gulf of Mexico blast that failed and polluted with all the oil and contaminants for so long until they got it plugged up and lots of loss of life, etc. The Porter Ranch case is the largest methane leak or spill or blast in history anyone ever known, and the whole community sits on a hill of caverns that store 300 billion cubic yards of gas. And it's an amazing process, but it failed, and there's a lot of reasons it failed. And a pipe and a pump blew out thousands of feet below the ground, and it took them a long time to get down there and fix it. But the methane gas itself is not so much toxic as it is displacement of oxygen. So as as the methane meets the oxygen, it displaces the oxygen, so it impairs the ability to breathe healthy oxygen for the people that are affected by it. And it was not only the methane gas, but as the methane gas would blast out 24/7 for months, it would also bring with it and suck up all the benzene that was in the area. And benzene is certainly known as a carcinogen that is very dangerous to breathe. There's many cases about benzene. You know, the American Airlines used to have we had clients with American Airlines that used to clean all of their parts with benzene. They'd have big sinks of benzene that would pump it through and recycle it, and they developed a lot of cancers of the mouth and the throat, etc. And so benzene is a dangerous thing. What happened is over 10,000 people had to be relocated out of that community, and we believe that part of the strength of the real estate market out here, residentially speaking, is the impact on Porter Ranch. As people had to find other places to live, they would come to Santa Clarita, and they would find that it's a wonderful place. It's a community. It's not just a community on the freeway down there in the masses of the San Fernando Valley, but it is a community that's really pretty tight and coherent and family oriented. And I think the property values got a real boost as the values in Porter Ranch began to sink. And that was an interesting case from the real estate standpoint. I spoke with the president of the excuse me, the president of the real estate board of the Association of Realtors down there, and some of the directors about the disclosures that they need to have. They ended up developing a new disclosure form, which includes all the details about the gas storage facilities there. And it's an ongoing battle. We represent about 4,000 clients, and we are part of this. Our firm's part of the steering committee. Excuse me. The steering committee consists of some of the lead firms that are in that case selected by the judge to coordinate all of the coming and going in the case, the discovery, the pleadings, and it's moving along. There are a lot of moving parts, including the government defendants, but we believe that people will have some of those side effects for a long time, and so we encourage people when they're buying a house to make sure they read the disclosures. As all of you in real estate know, the disclosure statements have a lot of print, a lot of text, but it's good to really pay attention and read them and understand what they are.
It's always better to over-disclose, correct, than to not disclose enough.
Yeah, there's an interesting civil code section 1102, which created a new form of disclosure. That was several years ago, and in that form now the seller and the real estate agent have duties to disclose things that they know about the property that might make a significant difference in the buyer's interest in buying the property. Mm-hmm. The good thing about it is it has a statute of limitations protection, which means that before that law came into effect, you could be in a house for 5-6 years and you discover something that wasn't disclosed. You could still sue the seller or the broker. But now there's a statute of limitations that says if you disclose everything and you've done it to your best knowledge and your best ability, and the broker's agent's responsibility is to do a visual inspection and to disclose anything that they might have discovered or reasonably should have discovered by a visual inspection. And once they do that, the statute of limitations says that after 2 years, they're not liable in any way. And so that's an effective tool both for the agents and for the buyers to protect themselves. And it also creates more information because the buyers and the agents are telling each other everything wrong with the house, so that there's full disclosure and people buying the house take it as they see it and as they have it disclosed, and puts everybody, gives them a peace of mind. So that's an important part of the disclosure law.
So what's going on with Porter Ranch currently? Are a lot of homes vacant? Is everybody back at their homes?
Well, that's a good point. There was an issue of what was the diminution in value? How much did the houses go down? And they did have a significant drop initially, but the housing demand is so strong that they are stabilizing. And I think a lot of speculators and investors came in and bought properties. Companies came in and sold their services for removing contamination, cleaning everything in the house and the grounds, etc. And so a lot of people have moved back in, and there are, I believe, still opportunities there that people would consider to be opportunities that that we would probably hesitate to take the risks until we get this all resolved. But the unknown is still there, which there continues to be leaks that are disclosed and some that are not disclosed. And so it's a part of the litigation, and it's a complex litigation, but it is moving forward.
Well, your grandchildren, you're listening to At Home with Charlene every Thursday on award-winning KHTS 98.1. These cases drag out and out and out. My concern is that when your grandchildren have grandchildren, the case will get settled. That's my guess.
Well, that's the perception. It takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, and discovery. It takes a long time. But we also are expecting here, Sempra Energy is the owner of that gas field, and as a storage facility. And Sempra Energy is one of the largest energy companies in the United States and probably the world.
Sempra, is it?
Sempra.
But Exxon gets the bad publicity, right?
Well,
is it ExxonMobil?
Well, they had their issues as well.
That was in the Gulf, you know. Well, as one of the ripple effects now is that the gas company announced that it affects several mini projects in our community. One recently was a medical clinic that wanted to open it up, and the gas company took the position that they were not going to create any more connections with new buildings or construction projects because they didn't want to have or cause any shortage of gas by selling more gas and having more meters. And we're not sure that wasn't a ploy to put a little pressure on people to move things along and look the other way. But that's one of the ripple effects. And Sempra probably does not want this to be in public eye, in their investors' eye, any longer than they have to. So we're making good progress, and we believe that we will be successful here, and in less than a lifetime.
Wow!
And,
I think you can make that accomplishment.
Yeah.
You think so?
You can get it done. You know, you're a part of another large suit, and it's probably, I think it's the largest mass shooting we've had. Unfortunately, the Vegas shooting that you are representing a lot of victims on, and that unfortunately hits to home because we've been having a lot of that lately in schools and the Florida situation, and I think we should touch on that just a little bit too. That's a huge case that you're a part of, and what's your progress and how's that going?
Well, we do represent many people in that. There are clients of ours in several states, but the preponderance of our clients reside in Los Angeles County. That was probably the highest density of participation in a group that participated outside of the state of Nevada. And there are so many people affected in this community. That's not only the people that were actually shot, but the people that have lost loved ones, but those that were standing with their spouses or friends that were injured. And not to be graphic, because you can all imagine how graphic, and you've seen it, you know, as much as anybody needs to see all the video that came out of those shootings because of all the cameras that were filming the festival and the events that were documented by happenstance because of what was going on. So the reality is that there was substantial negligence. MGM had their fingerprints both on the festival and on the Mandalay Bay Hotel. They own both properties. They engaged with Live Nation, which is one of the largest producers of these kind of events in the world. Last year, their gross revenues were $8.5 billion. They are also the producer of the mass shooting in London earlier in the summer, where people were shot and killed. And certainly they were on notice that these were risks that should have been avoided. The systems that were available for them were not employed. No marked exits, no lighted signs, no security staff to help people exit. Lights being flipped on at 10:30 at night so that the shooter had a lighted target. Just one thing after the other, and certainly we've all heard the negligence about the hotel and them allowing the shooter to set up shop there.
How does one, this is the question I've always had, and I don't know how much you could talk about and how much you can't, but how does one enter a hotel with the type of weaponry he had and not have any red flag whatsoever? That to me is, I don't understand how you can't walk in with 20, 25, or however many suitcases he was coming through, and it wasn't triggering. No one is seeing somebody coming back and forth with so much luggage or baggage coming in. I just don't understand how that could happen.
Well, he was a known VIP. They definitely understood who he was, and they catered to him and treated him as one of the most active gamblers. It's been reported by NBC that in 2015 the shooter actually lost $5 million, which was reported in the year 2015. So you imagine he has to have a lot of money to lose $5 million. So probably he got whatever he wanted, and very few questions were asked. But I think our people, our clients, the hundreds of clients that we have a common goal that is very prominent, in addition to their desire to work their way through the tragedy, is to effect change and make sure that safety is paramount and the public is going to be more protected. Within 30 hours after the shooting, Mandalay Bay was able to put up metal detectors. If I were to take my family to Las Vegas and I have a choice between two hotels and one of them has no security system in the future where they can examine bags, we believe and we're pushing for metal detectors and scanners just like we have at the airport, that you just put your bag on the conveyor belt and it goes through, or just like the courthouse or the library. Those are the places that are safe. And so they can be made safe, and they should be made safe. And of course now we had the shooting in the schools, so things can change, and they must change.
And how do you think we go about changing it in our school districts? Because you probably have a lot of kids who are afraid to go to school. We talked about this on Tuesday's show. You know, when kids start hearing about these things happening at schools where they feel safe and they, you know, their teachers are there and it's a safe environment, they probably feel just as safe there as they do at their own home. How do we prevent that from happening down the road for you know, the kids and for those that want to go to concerts? You know, what's some of the safe checks we can do?
Well, I know the city of Santa Clarita, the sheriff's department, they have been considering ordinances or requirements for these kinds of events. As you know, in Central Park, we have a very successful program in the city that's sponsored and supported by the city, and thousands of people gather there. There are high elevations around, and so maybe it will require more security, maybe it will require some additional fees, but I hope that's the discussion. It's about the fees as opposed to do we do it or not. The discussion has to be, what do we do to assure people that the majority, if not all of the risk is eliminated. And of course, we know of all the dialogue that goes on in the media that there are a lot of ways for people who are evil to cause harm to others, but efforts need to be taken, of course, to protect our schools. And some of the discussions in the last couple of days are full of ideas. And I think the idea here for our community is we shouldn't wait for the nation to do something. We shouldn't wait for someone to force something. But we have some very successful schools academically and financially well run, and we need to be sure that we are taking steps and considering options for protecting the students and the teachers.
Listening to At Home with Charlene, great guest. Hopefully we'll have him back. Just listening to your voice and talking about these two cases, I could listen to you for hours and hours. We're going to come right back. This is the time where Charlene has her editorial moment, and she's going to be talking about something that's pretty serious. Maybe you need to pull the car over to the side of the road. The show is called At Home with Charlene, and you know her. She's the #1 mortgage agent. Probably. I'm saying maybe, because maybe there's somebody else out there, Charlene.
There could be.
I doubt it, but there could be. Remember her number, 805. If you're driving, forget it. 805-304-6004. We're going to come back every Thursday at 2 o'clock. Make an appointment with us. Next week, we have a guest that, I don't know. I'm just going to say this. You'll recognize the guest. You won't recognize what this guest does for a living, though. It's going to be pretty exciting. We'll be right back at Home with Charlene.
Fruit arranged like flowers? What a delicious idea! Edible Arrangements specializes in creating a variety of fresh fruit arrangements overflowing with fresh, hand-designed fruit and filled with strawberries, pineapple, grapes, cantaloupe, honeydew, and seasonal favorites. Made to order in a size you select and ready to eat and enjoy. You can even add chocolate to any arrangement. Edible Arrangements is always fresh, always appropriate, and always appreciated. Order yours today, 253-0052 or ediblearrangements.com. Edible Arrangements is on Soledad near Bouquet Canyon.
KHTS strives to give the Santa Clarita Valley all the information they need. And when our computers aren't working the way they should, we call Resurgence, your true source for IT. Resurgence provides outstanding customer service while also providing the highest technical ability. They strive to do what is best to improve and protect your business. For more information on Resurgence, call 349-4114 or go to resurgenceit.com.
It isn't often when we see a company launch in Santa Clarita and become an international sensation. In 2010, Jen Gerard founded Whitening Lightning in her Valencia kitchen. Now it's a booming international sensation. Leading actresses and international models have switched to Whitening Lightning to avoid the mess, hassle, and sensitivity of other products. Whitening Lightning's simple Dial a Smile kit will dramatically turn your teeth whiter in just 20 minutes. Rediscover how white your teeth can look. Visit whiteninglightning.com. whiteninglightning.com.
Back at Home with Charlene every Thursday at 2 o'clock on award-winning KHTS. You know, you can listen to us at hometownstation.com. All the shows on award-winning KHTS 98.1, hometownstation.com, or we have the best, I'm not kidding you, best radio app in the country. Just go to the App Store and put in KHTS 1220 AM. This is Charlene's very special time, so if you've been napping, it's a good time to wake up. What do you got, girl?
Well, I just wanted to let Rick just say a few things. He just wanted to, we have a couple minutes, and he wanted he wanted to wrap up a couple things on his Porter Ranch.
Yeah. Well, the Porter Ranch situation is going to come to an end, and we are going to be seeking medical monitoring for some of the people who are most vulnerable, those people who already suffered from asthma or from hay fever or COPD or who have had chemotherapy recently, those people whose immune systems are much more vulnerable. Those are the very much at-risk people. Actually, some of those people have passed away in the process. And so that's part of it. It's about getting medical help and monitoring in addition to compensation for the way it's turned their lives upside down. Earlier you talked about women in the mortgage business, and it's really nice to hear the things that I've heard about Charlene, and that is some of the adjectives that people have used is that she has a reputation for integrity. She tells you the truth up front, and she follows it up, and she's very transparent in the process, tries to make a complicated process simplified. And she has a buddy that is in our building there too, Freed Smith, who is the escrow officer for the company that they're associated with. And as the escrow officer, she is one of the busiest and most successful. I guess the best thing you can say if you're talking to real estate agents about her is that she gets the escrows closed. And that's really the bottom line for everybody. And it takes people like Charlene and Freed to do that. And I've had personal experiences with them in these processes. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I just wanted to say about the Las Vegas cases. It might be surprising to some people, but that was an October 1st shooting, and some of our most vulnerable and most negatively impacted, meaning the most wounded people, have come to us in just the last 3 or 4 weeks. It's taken this long for them to work through the process of how do we deal with this, how do we keep our lives on track, how do we help our family and our children and our friends and our relationships with our spouses. You can imagine the challenges that come. And we've had so many couples that come to us, and invariably what we learn is that these couples who stick it out together and work with each other and listen and support, that they develop a love and an understanding that they would never have before. So I guess if there's any silver lining, people that survive this, they are positive people. They recognize that they're survivors, even though they may have challenges emotionally and physically. They know what they have done and what they have survived, and we are so proud of them and grateful to be able to serve them in those efforts.
How do you? We only have a minute or two left. We're going to have you back in about 5 weeks to get an update on everything. But how do you survive emotionally? I mean, when you're talking to people with heartbreaking stories, how do you handle this?
It's interesting for me as I've analyzed the process. I have never had a case as tragic as this. We had a lot of tragic cases along the way, a lot of fatalities, but when they are combined one after the other, it becomes kind of like radiation. It's a cumulative effect. It just adds to the burden. And I would go home and just anonymously, share with my wife some of the stories at the beginning. It's this is what happened. This is how people are suffering. And after a few times, she recognized and helped me understand that basically I was coming and kind of downloading, and it became too much of a burden for her. So I recognized that I need to think carefully about how I share the burden as any couple that goes through a tragedy. So there's this bystander, this ancillary effect that anyone trying to help each other in these situations feels. And we commend the caregivers, we commend the spouses that weren't even there, and we commend them for hanging in there and making it work.
Well, that's pretty honest and open and transparent yourself. Rick Patterson, that's his name. He's going to be back to give us an update on all the cases. Owen Patterson and Owen every Thursday at 2 o'clock. We have great guests. I'm not kidding you. Every Thursday at 2. The show is called At Home with Charlene. And Charlene, this is another great show.
Yeah, and you know what I wanted to say there? He said something that's really important, and that was relationships. And I think that's key because I think we don't focus enough on our personal relationships, whether it's with your spouse, your parents, your children, your friends, your business associates. Your true goal in life should be your relationships, because if you've got strong relationships, there's no breaking your wall. There's no tearing you down. There's nothing that you can't surpass with a strong built relationship. And whether that's personal, business, whatever it may be, that reflects, just a strong well-being about yourself. That really plays an effect in how you handle circumstances like these, how you get through acts of injustice that happened. And I think if we all just take a seat back and really focus in on bettering our relationships all around, that we could truly be better people.
It creates a foundation. Honest, open relationships where you trust each other builds a foundation for whatever might come along.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well said. Tuesday, Charlene and I were talking about kindness, that it doesn't take anything to be kind.
And if we all just woke up every day and said, how can I make a difference, or how can I be a little bit better than I was yesterday? If we all just woke up that way, we can make a difference one by one.
Absolutely. Well said. Charlene Gill, maybe the best ever in the mortgage business. We were talking about gas with Rick a couple of minutes ago. I don't know what the two of you are doing tomorrow at 1 o'clock, but there's going to be a lot of gas coming out of the sports show. So I hope there's no lawsuits involved there. 1 o'clock tomorrow, Travis talks sports, and we've got a big show talking about the Dodgers tomorrow. Are you a Dodger fan, Charlene?
I like the Dodgers.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't sound sincere. How about you, Rick? Are you a Dodger fan?
I am, and never to leave that position, because my son and I were at the game when Gibson hit his home run.
Oh boy.
I like
We
the
were there.
all-you-can-eat.
All you can eat?
Yeah, the all-you-can-eat section.
Okay, out in left.
Your hot dogs, your
left field, and
that's the best place to sit.
I'm still suffering from World Series hangover. I'm still bitter. I don't know if I'll ever get over that. So, all right. Thank you. We get your cards, your emails. We got 3 minutes left. Charlene, tell us what is going on in the mortgage industry. You got 3 minutes. What is going on, Charlene Gill?
We need inventory. And
what does that mean?
That means we still have 300 plus properties that are on the market.
That
is, I remember in the short sale stage, we had 600 and something properties on the market, and everyone was afraid that was a lack of inventory. But truly, the lack of inventory is where we're at. And you have qualified buyers. You don't have a significant amount of property to put them in, and so we need properties. We need people to get their properties on the market. Summer, springtime, summer, this is the time you need to get that property listed. If you're going to move out of state, you're moving to downsize, upsize, whatever that situation may be, we need to create inventory. So if we can create some inventory, we can kind of create that market moving again.
Prescott? He didn't say Prescott. He said Prescott.
But people move for different reasons. They need a bigger property. They're getting a divorce. They're moving out of state. There's multiple reasons for listing a property, but we need to get that inventory on the market. And people need to take advantage of the rates that we're at. People need to take advantage of the fact that we're coming to spring and summer, the busiest time of the real estate year, and really just start putting that inventory back in the market.
Is the same rate that you would get in California, let's say 4%, can you get that in Prescott too?
It's going to be different.
Rick said Prescott. He didn't say Prescott.
That's right.
Prescott, Arizona.
So I would give you a plug on senior housing. If the people that own the big houses and they're empty nesters, where the senior center is being constructed, Beazer Homes has built and is building 150 of these senior condo, 55 and over luxury condos, and so that would be one place where you could.
Absolutely,
and turn some houses back to the market. Yeah,
and you don't want a large square foot home when you're up in age. You want a smaller little place. You want to travel, and you want less maintenance.
We'll see you next Thursday at 2 at Home with Charlene. I'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock on the sports show.
Thanks
Have
for
a
coming
great
on.